All praise unto Yahweh by Shimi Al-Shai. Double honors to the apostles of GMS. Honors to you brothers that be pushing this truth in sincerity throughout the four corners of the earth. Alright? And you know, we're gonna get into some scriptures through the spirit of Yahweh by Shimi Al-Shai. And without much further ado, I wanted to go into the book of Isaiah, the 2nd chapter, and maybe touch on I believe it's the book of Micah, the 4th chapter, and pretty much those get into what the Negroes, Hispanics, Native Americans, which are the 12 tribes of Israel, all right, how they're gonna be set up pretty much in this time, all right, where you got it to where you got camps rising up throughout the four corners of the earth, whether that's gonna be out there starting first and foremost with the elders in New York, all right, or out here in England, where you got brothers, you know, camps of which I'm, of which through the spirit, Yahweh Shem Al-Shai, I'm a part of, okay, or you got it to where you got other camps being set up in places like Holland and so on and so forth. See, that's all the Most High beginning to set up what we know as the 12 tribes of Israel, the tabernacles of David, all right, and the scripture says how he was going to set it as in the times before, okay. But you got to remember why we're in the situation that we're in the first place. We're in the situation that we're in the first place by way of what? By way of us, the 12 tribes of Israel, the Negroes, Hispanics, Native Americans, right? Collectively, not following the laws, statutes, commandments of the Most High. The scripture says, if you and your king, furthermore, it says, you and your king shall go into slavery. You shall go into captivity. You was going to serve this devil as your punishment for not following or hearkening unto the Most High, man. All right, but as you know, and we're gonna see that in the scriptures. All right, but as part of the covenant was that the Most High was gonna send His Son to establish a new covenant, because a covenant is a mutual agreement wherewith if one party doesn't, keep up with their part of the bargaining chip, the other party is still obliged to do that. It's not like a contractual agreement where if one party breaks, the contract is null and void. All right. So when we went off on the law, statutes, commandments of the Most High was still obliged to keep his part of the bargain, all right? And in so doing, he required blood, but that blood was shed by who? The man Yahweh Shai, right? Going to show you that he ain't no regular cat, you know, he ain't no regular geezer, okay? So we get into the book of Micah, you know, we'll start off in the book of Isaiah, the 2nd chapter first, and then, you know, I'll jump around, go in the spirit, you know, I might not get through all of the scriptures, but we just deal with it in the spirit. Right, so starting first with the book of Isaiah, the 2nd chapter, okay, and I'm going to start from the top. It's Isaiah, all right, 2 and 1. It says, the word that Isaiah, the son of Amos, saw concerning Judah and Jerusalem. So when it says Judah and Jerusalem, you have to remember what the history was like, okay, with the Most High, going back onto the curses, because we went off on the law, statutes, commandments of the Most High, so he had to keep up, he kept up his part of the agreement, which was to impart curses on us. All right, when you read the book of Deuteronomy, it tells you how part of those curses was going to be a brother hating his brother, man. Right now, on a microscopic level, it's where you got Jakes hating Jakes, all right, which is, you know, the head tribe Judah hating Judites, to where you got gangs like the Bloods and the Crips, and you know that filters out all throughout the different places where Judah is at, okay. But even on a macroscopic, which means a larger scale, on a macroscopic, you got it to where there's a fervent hatred for Judah, right, and Ephraim, okay, which is the Negroes and the so-called Hispanics, man. All right, and that's why the scripture says Judah shall no more envy Ephraim. Why? Because that curse that was befell. Where was I last week?
You weren't here last week.
I was in London last week.
It's routine. We pass you every Saturday, and last week you weren't here.
No, I come here every other Saturday, and every other Saturday I'm with my brothers down in London.
Oh, that's nice.
That's the routine. It's just
sorry.
when you say that on camera, people listen to that.
Sorry.
And if they're not watching both channels, it seems like I've been taking time off. So.
Oh, sorry.
So no, it's all good. It's all good. You know, Bible believers.
What?
No? Okay, but you believe in you must know what's coming in terms of the economy, though.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, you think you know what's coming.
You think you know what's coming.
Everybody thinks it.
Okay, so what do you think is coming?
What do you think is coming, Joe? Obliteration.
Sorry? Okay, that's correct. Why? Who's gonna do the obliterating?
Do it, Joe.
Russia. Russia's gonna be involved in there. Well, you got.
I think America is now.
Well, really, yeah, that's correct, because America really they talk about the Russian aggression, right? But it's really American aggression, because who's out there in the Baltic Sea? Who's in the Baltic Sea? You got the Americans stationed there. Now you got it to where if America's over there on one side of the earth, all right,
I'm interested.
and Russia's all the way over here, And you got it to where the Americans go all the way to Russia. Who's causing the aggression? It's America.
They're
So
forcing everybody.
exactly. So they're gonna force the whole world to get into a new World War III,
Yeah.
and that's spoken about within the Bible.
That's what they're doing.
Right.
So,
Well, you seem knowledgeable. You know, that's more than I can say for more people. You know. All right. So back in the book of Isaiah, the 2nd chapter, and the first verse, it says, "The word of Isaiah, the son of Amos, saw concerning Judah and Jerusalem." And like I was getting into, was the fact that the two tribes, by way of the curses, right, split apart. And you had it to where one king ruled over there and another king ruled in Jerusalem. Okay. Now over a period of time, you had it to where the house of Ephraim, they went as far as to go into the interiors of America. Now you know them as the Native Americans, right? The Hispanics, all right. The Seminole Indians. That's 10 tribes, so to speak, right? Because you're gonna have Levites amongst them. So that's technically 10 tribes. And what do you have left? You had in Jerusalem, Judah, Benjamin, and Levi. Okay. Now there was a hatred because why? Because you had it to where the house of Jerusalem, which was the 10 tribes, right? Really, they went away there because they weren't following the Lord's statutes, commandments. That's why when was it Shalmaneser, right, the king of the Assyrians, when he tried to go up against Judea, really he didn't really succeed because Judah, Benjamin, and Levi weren't really going off like that. So there was an envy and there was a conflict. And when you take that through the history, you had it to where in Jerusalem, when the Lord was on the scene, pretty much they didn't want to really deal with anyone that they knew were Israelites, but they knew that they were what? They were likened unto heathens, man. Okay? But ultimately, the Lord's going to bring all of us back and make us one stick. In fact, the book of Obadiah says it best when he says he's going to take the house, one stick, which is Ephraim rather more, and the other stick, which is Judah, and he's going to join them together. And effectively, what he's going to do with that stick is going to bash these different nations into powders, man, as pursuant to the book of Revelations, the 2nd chapter, on the 25th verse. See, that's what the Most High is doing right now. He's raising up the tents of Judah, and he's raising up the tents of Jerusalem, and that envy, right, that divide that we have between us, which is part of the curse, is going to be taken away from us, man. All right. So let's get back into the scriptures right here. This is the book of Isaiah, the 2nd chapter and the 2nd verse. It says, "And it shall come to pass that in the last days the mountains of the Lord shall be established, and the mountains shall be exalted above all the hills, above all, and all nations shall flow to it." See, really a lot said in that. Okay, so you know, with the purposes of breaking down the scriptures, we're going to go to Ezekiel, the 36th chapter, and that's going to get into the mountains and how really Jake's going to be raised up. I'm going to start with the book of Amos, the 9th chapter, and the 8th verse. Right? And so, lucky for the noise, some things you can't control, you know. All right? So, this is the book of Amos, the 9th chapter. I'll start at the 8th verse. The point is in the 11th verse. Okay, so this is Amos 9 and 8. So it says, "Behold, the eyes of the Lord power, Yahweh outside, the man you know as the man you know as God, right? His real name is Yahweh." Okay, and you can find that out within the scriptures by way of what? By way of reading the Hebrew. Okay, and when you get into the Hebrew, there's certain places that people place an altar, right, for the Most High, and they call that altar by way of the name of the Most High. Or you had it to where certain people, like the name Judah, came by way of what? Came by the mother of Judah saying, you know, Yahweh, thanks. Therefore you have it Yahweh, you know, Tawada and Yahweh, therefore you had Yahweh. Okay, that's how we are able to derive, right, the proper connotation or the proper context of the name of the Lord. Because it's written throughout all of the scriptures, man. Okay, so the man, you know, the power, rather more, Salakia, right? It says here, "Behold, the eyes of the Lord power are upon the sinful kingdom." Now, what is a sinful kingdom? Okay, it's going to be a society that's going to be against the Lord's statutes, commandments of the Most High. All right. Now, what society has existed that's far and most opposite to the Lord's statutes, commandments of the Most High than the society that we're living in right now. Right? There's no other society that has gone so far astray from what the Scripture prescribes than the society that we're living in right now, spearheaded by what? By the so-called NATO, by the so-called United States of America. They spearhead the wickedness that's perpetuated throughout this kingdom. And the Most High is saying his eyes are upon the sinful kingdom. So what does that mean to say? That means he's recording every wicked event, every wicked decree, as pursuant to the book of Isaiah, the 33rd chapter, every wicked decree that is allowed to happen within the society, the Most High is watching it. And what's he going to do by way of that? Scripture says here, and I will destroy it from off the face of the earth, save it utterly. I will not destroy the house of Jacob. So the Lord say, look, right? I'm going to destroy the wicked because they're doing wickedly. They're going off. And really, when you go into the scripture says, if the wicked be multiplied, it is for the sword. All right? So the Most High is allowing this man to go off and really to punish the 12 tribes of Israel, Negroes, Hispanics, Native Americans. And then ultimately what's going to happen is that the Most High is going to save the righteous. And the only righteous they're going to have is going to be of the tribes of Israel, man. Because they're the only ones that dealt with the law. Okay? So it says there, and I'll destroy from off the face of the earth, saving utterly. I will not destroy the house of Jacob, saith the Lord. For lo, I will command, and I will sift, right, the house of Israel among all nations, right? Now, why did you have to have this sifting? Because as pursuant to the book of Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter, on the 64th verse, we was going to be scattered amongst the nations. So not only did you have it to where the northern kingdom, the Native Americans, the Mexicans, and so on and so forth, right? The Latin-speaking tribes. Not only did they go into the interiors of America first, and that was the beginning of the diaspora. You had it to where Judah, Benjamin, and Levi that was left over by way of was it 70 AD when you had it to where the Flavian dynasty came and ransacked, Jerusalem. You had it to where all of those Jakes that were left there, they fled into the interiors of Africa, fled all over into these different places, and they mingled with the people that were amidst them. Therefore, you had an even greater scattering, a greater diaspora of the people, man. All right, the people of the Most High. All right, to where now that he's going to have to sift them from amongst all of these nations. That means to say you're going to have it to where you're going to have an Edomite and a Jake that's going to look pretty much the same, but their lineage goes back to what? Right? Either the man Israel making them an Israelite, or the man Esau making them an Edomite. Okay? And if your lineage is from the man Israel, meaning to say you can come looking like any shape, you can come in looking you can come looking in any shape or form, but ultimately it's about your lineage. It's about where you're from, man. Okay? It's about your father's line. All right? So your father's line determines what your judgment is going to be, and the judgment that's going to be prescribed to the Edomites is ultimately, as pursuant to the book of Obadiah, right? Is to be eradicated as vermin will be eradicated from the face of the earth, man. All right. So this is the book of Obadiah, the ninth chapter, and the 9th verse. It says, "For lo, I will command, I will sift the house of Israel." So the Lord's going to sift them. And what's doing the sifting, man? Starting from the elders of GMS, right? By way of the internet, pushing this word out through the internet, and that's going to be sifting these different brothers that are going to be coming into this thing that be sighing for it and crying for all the abominations that be done in the midst of, man. Okay? Because you could be out here, you could be so-called having a so-called good time and all of that, man. But in the back of your mind, you know something's wrong, man. Okay? And that's like into every brother that's coming to this thing where you was out here, you was sort of mingling with these people, like, man, nah, they something fishy going on here, man. And that's really the spirit, the Most High that was upon certain guys because they were not of this world. The scripture says if you were of this world, the world would love his own. If the world loves his own, hey, you ain't got no problem, man. All right? But as the Most High would have it, his elect are separate from that entity. They're separate from the Commonwealth of Israel. Because the Commonwealth of Israel right now is to be destroyed. The scripture says in the book of Zechariah, the 13th chapter and the 8th verse, all right, that right, Zechariah, the 13th chapter and 8th verse. Sorry.
Little big cardboard box.
All right, okay, all right.
What about you and the whistle crew?
All right, guys. Couple hours, you come back, yeah? All right, okay. All right, we're getting back onto what I was saying. All right, pretty much, I lost my train of thought now. Fucking demons. All right, but pretty much, you had it to where you had the diaspora, and now you got it to where the Most High is watching all of the wickedness that's happening out here, man. Right? And ultimately, he's going to destroy the wicked from the face of the earth, man, as pursuant to the book of Obadiah, man. Okay? So it says here, in the 10th verse, all sinners, that's it, that was breaking down the book of Zechariah, the 13th chapter, on the 8th verse, where it talks about, it shall come to pass that in all the land thereof, 1/3 shall escape, which is the 1/3 that Zion cry for all the abominations that be done in the midst thereof. Okay, that complaining for all the wickedness that been done here, and they're pushing this word, man. They just sincerely hoping and praying for the kingdom to come, man. All right, and doing all that is necessary for them to be fit for the righteous judgment, man, to obtain those things that are righteous, or right, that are righteousness unto the Most High, man. Okay, and then for the rest of them, the 2/3, they're gonna receive off the fire, but the fire of the nuclear fire, man. Okay, they're gonna be burnt up. But see, here's the beautiful thing, and I'm gonna get this in the scriptures in the book of Isaiah, the 14th chapter. The beautiful thing about it is, all Israel's gonna be saved, man. Okay, all Israel's gonna be saved in that the Most High is gonna have it to where, the men, the women, the die by way of these ICBM nuclear missiles are gonna come by way of Russia and so on and so forth. They're gonna come born as newborn babies within the kingdom, man. And that's how all Israel's gonna be saved. But as for Esau, that's not gonna happen, man. For the other nations, they're gonna, either receive judgment by the ICBMs, or they're gonna receive judgment by way of what? By way of being enslaved, man. By way of being put in captivity, man. Okay, and they're gonna serve a 1,000-year period of slavery. You know, I'm quoting a lot, because really, when you get into these scriptures, you might say one statement, but as we've seen in the scriptures here in the book of Isaiah, that one statement encompasses a whole heap of things, man. Okay, and that's how we know the men, the so-called New Testament, the men that were speaking on the so-called New Testament, they were quoting from the Old Testament, because every time you dissect each sentence that they're saying, right, really what they're going back to, they're going back onto the different verses in the Old Testament, but they're Muslim, because guess what? That's what they had back then. They had the Old Testament, the prophecies, and when they were speaking as concerning Yahweh, they were speaking and referring to the Old Testament, man. Okay? So when the Lord came on the scene, he didn't say anything. He didn't destroy anything. In fact, the Lord, he said it best himself. He said, I came not to destroy, but to fulfill for what? Right? The law requires blood, and the Yahweh was the fulfillment of the law. All right? See, let's get back into the scriptures right here. So this is the 11th verse in Amos. Okay? It says, "On that day will I raise up the tabernacle of David that is fallen." So the Lord is raising up the tabernacle of David that is fallen, man. Right? He's raising up the brothers out there, all throughout the four corners of the earth, man. Okay? Now, the YouTube thing is that, the views are being messed up with. Okay? We know that. But ultimately, you don't know where these videos are going at, man. You don't know what brothers are listening to the truth. Now, you had the situation out there where the guy in Philippines rose up and he was speaking and he gave his testimony, but really, there's going to be multifold that's going to come through. And what my thinking is this, man. You're going to even have a greater multitude coming in when you got it to where the Most High imparts that spiritual power upon us, because certain jakes need to see the miracles, man. All right? That they're just them kind of people. And that's why you had it to where when the Lord was on the scene, you could have it to where 1,000 people be converted in one day. But see, for the men of the Lord, the 144, all right, 144,000 for the most part, they're just gonna believe in the word, man. Now for the 1/3, they might need to see a miracle here and there and be persuaded. But as for the men of the Lord, you shouldn't really need to see that. All you need is the scriptures, right? And the understanding of the scriptures, and you can see we're in that time, we're in a spiritual time, and the Lord's getting ready to, to bring Lord of haughty people, man. All right. 12th verse, that they may possess the remnant of Edom and all the heathen that were called by my name, saith the Lord that doeth this. All right. Okay. Now let me go back onto Isaiah the 2nd chapter and the 2nd verse, and it says, "And it shall come to pass that in the last days the mountain of the Lord's house shall be established in the top of the mountains, and shall be exalted above all the hills, and all nations shall flow to it." So we touched the first part of that, which is the different nations, really the different nations within the 12 tribes of Israel being raised up, because we're likened unto a nation. We're likened unto nations within a nation. Okay, there's such diversity between the 12 tribes of Israel. It's like different nations, man, right? But ultimately, they all have one common spirit, right? Which circulates this word, all right? So now I'm gonna go to the book of Ezekiel, the 36th chapter, all right? And you're gonna see that the mountains is talking about the governments, all right? And this is gonna be talking about the governments really within the 12 tribes of Israel, man. Okay, so let me just read this 2nd verse again so you get the gist, you get the point. All right, so it says, "And it shall come to pass that in the last days," we're in the last days now. How do we know in the last days? 2 Peter's the 3rd chapter, around about the 3rd verse. "Behold, in the last days shall be perilous times," right? Men walking after the lust of their own flesh, all right? Meaning to say what? They're going to see the word, they're going to perceive the word, but they ain't going to teach the word. They're going to use the word as a means to get rich within their society, right? To dress up their captivity, man. To make their hell that little bit less pleasant, man. that little bit more pleasant, rather more, that little bit less unpleasant. Guys like the Final 7, right, who is the head of the IUIC, guys like General Yohana, who is the so-called head of the ISUPK, okay? Those are the men that takes this truth and use it for filthy lucre's sake, all right? But the Most High really is going to use them to raise up certain guys to really to put it to their shame, man, to be destroyed, or to in the last days they're going to realize, oh, wait, man, this guy General Yohana is an asshole. Really, the guys at GMS have the truth, and then they follow us in the last days, man. So really, you don't know how many followers is following GMS at any given time, man, because really within these different guys' spirit, man. If I'll give you an example, man. If you got it to where you got a so-called leader of a country, man, and the people underneath that live within that country, right, are hearing his leader being slandered all the time, man. All right, the leader of the country is being slandered all the time. What they gonna do eventually? They're gonna take heed and they're gonna check out why this person being slandered, man. Okay, if they got some kind of integrity and balls, all right, they're gonna find out why this person is being slandered, and eventually when they get into the nitty-gritties of it with the individual like General Yohana, right, with the individual like Nathaniel 7, right, and all these different guys alike, when they get into the understanding of why we get onto them, all right, they're really gonna just follow GMS, man, because these guys are full of madness, man. Okay, but you know, I'm getting sidetracked there, so let me read this again. Isaiah 2:2, it says, and it shall come to pass that in the last days, right, like I said, in the last days, right, because I was quoting the book of 2 Peter, the 3rd chapter and the 3rd verse, and it says, in the last days shall come scoffers walking after their own lust, man. So you're going to have people talking all kind of madness, man. All right? Points that even line up with the scriptures, man. But they just want to have something to say, all right, so they can come up against this truth. But see, here's what the scripture says, all right? It says, anyone that cometh against you, namely the men of the Lord, men of the GMS, right, some of the elders on down, okay, the men that come up against them, they ain't coming up against men, they're coming up against Yahweh Shai, man. And in fact, the scripture also says in the book of Acts, if this thing were of men, all right, if we was coming in